Do you feel like wolves kebabs right French? Get French
That was the voice of evil, the face of evil, the voice and face of Charles Manson, dead at the age of 83. After he died, I went online just to learn more about him. I wrote an article, The Making of a Monster, about Charles Manson. And as I was just doing some online research, I saw an interesting article. It had this headline: Charles Manson, a villain, praised as a counterculture hero in 1969, dead at the age of 83. And the article mentioned that when he was caught, arrested, leading this group, a cult group of hippies, he claimed to be the second coming of Christ and led this group in a murderous, torturous rampage. That after this happened, that he was looked by some almost as a hero and a visionary. Rolling Stone magazine, their front cover, the story, Charles Manson, the incredible story of the most dangerous man alive. And the picture, it's been pointed out, he looks more to be a visionary than to be the evil leader of a murderous cult group. Now, here's what I find extraordinary. And I want to give you a little bit about his background in a moment. But in prison, he's asked about feeling guilty. Did he feel guilty for the crimes he committed, for leading others to murder and torture people in cold blood? Listen to what he said.
Maybe I should have killed 400 or 500 people. Then I would have felt better. Then when I felt like I really offered society something. You know, if I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore.
Okay, that again is evil. And yet he was celebrated by some. The Weathermen, one of the more radical groups, counterculture groups of the late 1960s, even engaged in bombing and violence. In 1969, they hoisted a Charles Manson power banner at one of their rallies. They spelled out the name of pregnant actress Sharon Tate, who was murdered, wife of Roman Polanski then, murdered by the Manson followers. They spelled out her name in bullets. You think, yikes. I mean, the whole thing, evil, and the people are attracted to him, evil. And growing up, you know, his cousin said there was never anything happy about him. He never did anything good. He was obsessed with knives and guns, and when he lost control of his anger, his eyes blazed with an intensity that convinced the cousin he was capable of injuring or even killing her. And supposedly his own mother was afraid of his crazy eyes when he was 5 years old. And yet, there's more to the story. What he did is evil, unspeakable evil, inexcusable evil. And as far as I know, he remained unrepentant until the day of his death. And there's no minimizing his guilt. But were there other factors that contributed to it? Listen to what Manson also said during this prison interview.
I've learned to reflect. I just reflect back. I know I don't know. I know I'm stupid. I admit I'm a petty whatever. I've never been a success at anything. I even got to the point where I didn't want to be a success at anything. What would being a success, what does that mean, you know? Money? Oh, I've had all the money in the world 3 times and I had to give it back. That's a stupid little game, you know? My awareness and my consciousness is not the same as somebody that goes to school and has a mom and dad. See, not having parents have left me in another dimension, so to say, you know? I don't have no bad going for nothing. I don't judge. I hardly even think about too much. It's hard for me to remember breakfast. In fact, if I didn't have 2 or 3 girls to help me, I would pretty much be lost and I wouldn't know what the hell I'm doing.
Now, here's the thing that you find out about his upbringing. His mother married and had him when she was 15 years old. The husband, father, 20 years old. He quickly abandons the family, so Manson is fatherless. Then, when he's 4 years old, his mother is arrested for her role in a botched armed robbery and sentenced to 5 years in prison. So now he's motherless and fatherless. And then he's raised for several years by aunt and uncle. Then, according to reports, as he's growing up, because he's small for his age, he gets sexually abused and physically abused by other boys. And then his best way out was to act like he was crazy. I wonder if that talk, that gibberish at the beginning, is something he learned to do as a boy and just scared them off by acting crazy. Then he starts having his own serious brushes with police as a young teenager. By the time he's 32 years old, he spent 17 of his first 32 years in prison, and then comes out and becomes the Charles Manson that we know. He alone is responsible for his actions. That's true. No one made him do what he did. And we don't know what psychiatric issues he had all of his life. But this much I know. You put someone in that environment, and they've got several strikes against them from the start. And we can only wonder what might have happened if the same kid was raised by a godly mother and father in a stable, loving environment. We know the stats are off the charts in terms of the connection between crime and violent crime and prison sentences for kids who are fatherless. We know the effect of broken homes on lives. We know what sexual abuse does to kids. You factor that all in with someone that could be unstable to start. It's a recipe for disaster. Again, he alone is responsible for his evil deeds. As far as we know, he died without repentance and never received mercy from God. But what a story to tell. And to remember, healthy families, important. Loving environments, important. Keeping kids from being abused, important. Which means reach out to those who have been abused. Reach out to those in broken homes and do our best to rescue kids like that before they grow into Charles Mansons.